The wails of the newborn infant echoed through the grand palace halls, piercing the silence of the night. King Alistair paced anxiously, his brow furrowed as the midwife emerged with a troubled expression. "My lord, the child, she was born without the wolf's sight or scent." Alistair's heart sank. A child of the Alpha bloodline, born devoid of the very senses that defined their kind? Unheard of. The ancient laws were clear. An heir must possess the full gifts of the wolf, or the pack would not accept them. This babe, his only offspring, was an abomination. The king hurried to the nursery, desperate to catch a glimpse of the child before the unthinkable happened. There, swaddled in soft linens, lay a tiny girl, her eyes closed peacefully. Alistair's calloused fingers traced her delicate features, his breath catching in his throat. She was perfect, save for the lack of that primal wolf energy he had sensed in every newborn of his line. A sharp knock at the door interrupted his thoughts. The head of the royal guard entered, his expression grave. "My lord, the council demands an audience. They've learned of the child's condition." Alistair nodded, steeling himself for the confrontation to come. This was no mere family matter. The stability of the entire kingdom hung in the balance. In the council chamber, the elders eyed the king with a mixture of pity and disdain. "Alistair, you know the law. This child cannot be heir." The eldest, a wizened woman named Edith, spoke with an air of finality. "The pack will never accept her. For the good of all, she must be—" Her voice trailed off, but the implication was clear. Alistair slammed his fist on the table, a low growl rumbling in his chest. "She is my daughter and the rightful heir. I will not condemn her to death." The other counselors shifted uncomfortably, averting their eyes. They knew better than to challenge the Alpha's authority, but the ancient traditions were unyielding. Just then, a commotion erupted outside the chamber. The doors burst open, and a young stable hand stumbled in, his eyes wild. "My lords, forgive the intrusion. There is something happening in the nursery." Alistair's heart raced as he rushed back to the infants' chambers, the council in tow. The scene that greeted them defied explanation. The baby girl lay cocooned in a pulsing golden aura, her tiny hands outstretched. The air crackled with energy, and the very walls seemed to tremble. Alistair approached cautiously, transfixed by the otherworldly display. As his calloused fingers brushed against the shimmering barrier, a jolt of power shot through him, bringing him to his knees. The stable hand, a lanky youth named Liam, stood transfixed, his gaze fixed on the child. I don't know what's happening," he stammered. "I was just checking on her, and then—" His voice trailed off, unable to find the words to describe the extraordinary scene unfolding before them. The counselors exchanged panicked glances, their centuries-old certainties shaken. Edith's eyes narrowed as she studied the child, her fingers tracing arcane symbols in the air. "This power, it is not of our world. Something ancient has been awakened." She turned to Alistair, her voice tinged with fear. "This child, she is not what she seems." Alistair felt a surge of protectiveness, his paternal instincts rising to the surface. "Then we will uncover the truth. I will not let my daughter be harmed." He gestured to the guards, who reluctantly approached the glowing barrier, only to be repelled by the overwhelming energy. As the days passed, the child's mysterious aura persisted, defying all attempts to breach it. Alistair, torn between his duty as king and his love for his daughter, sought counsel from the most learned mystics and seers in the land. But none could offer a satisfactory explanation for the extraordinary phenomenon. Liam, the stable hand, became a constant presence in the nursery, drawn to the child's power like a moth to a flame. He would sit for hours, transfixed, as if communing with the ancient forces that had awakened within her. The elders eyed him with suspicion, but Alistair, desperate to uncover the truth, allowed the boys continued access, hoping he might provide some insight. One night, as Alistair kept vigil beside the crib, the golden aura suddenly flickered and faded. The child's eyes fluttered open, and for the first time, Alistair saw the true depth of her gaze. There, within the emerald irises, swirled a kaleidoscope of colors, flashes of amber, glimpses of midnight blue, and shimmering strands of silver. Alistair felt a chill run down his spine, for the eyes that stared back at him were not those of a human child, but of something far more ancient and powerful.
In the days that followed, the child's development progressed at an astonishing rate. She grew rapidly, her features shifting and changing, as if the very essence of her being was in constant flux. Alistair watched in awe as she mastered skills that would have taken a normal child years to acquire, her movements fluid and graceful, her senses keen beyond mortal comprehension. Liam, the stable hand, remained a constant companion, drawn to the child's side like a moth to a flame. Alistair observed the growing bond between them, a connection that seemed to transcend the boundaries of their stations. The elders, ever wary of the unknown, voiced their concerns, but the king silenced them, unwilling to risk losing the only link to the child's mysterious origins. As the girl's 5th birthday approached, Alistair summoned the council once more. The elders, now visibly uneasy, took their seats, their eyes shifting nervously between the king and the child, who sat quietly, her gaze fixed and unwavering. "My lords," Alistair began, his voice resolute, "I have made a decision. This child, my daughter, will be the heir to the throne."
A collective gasp rippled through the chamber, and the councillors erupted in protest. Edith, her face etched with concern, raised a trembling hand. "Alistair, you cannot be serious. The laws are clear. An heir without the wolf senses cannot be accepted. The pack will never follow her." The other elders nodded in agreement, their expressions grim. Alistair raised a hand, silencing the dissent. "The laws may be clear, but the times are changing. This child is no ordinary heir. She possesses a power beyond our understanding, a gift that may be the key to the very survival of our kind." He turned to the girl, who met his gaze unflinchingly. "She is my daughter, and she will be your queen." The chamber fell silent, the councillors rendered speechless by the king's unwavering declaration. Liam, who had been standing in the shadows, stepped forward, his eyes shining with a mixture of awe and reverence. "My lord," he said, his voice barely above a whisper, "the child, she is more than she seems. I have felt her power, her connection to the ancient forces that govern our world. She is the key to unlocking the secrets of our past and the hope for our future." Alistair nodded, a small smile playing at the corners of his lips. "Then it is settled. From this day forth, my daughter shall be known as the Alpha Queen, and the kingdom shall prepare for her reign." The councillors, despite their misgivings, knew better than to challenge the king's decree. As they filed out of the chamber, a sense of unease hung heavy in the air, for the future that lay before them was shrouded in mystery, and the consequences of Alistair's decision would echo through the ages. The Alpha Queen. The chamber fell silent, the councillors rendered speechless by the king's unwavering declaration. Liam, who had been standing in the shadows, stepped forward, his eyes shining with a mixture of awe and reverence. "My lord," he said, his voice barely above a whisper, "the child, she is more than she seems. I have felt her power, her connection to the ancient forces that govern our world. She is the key to unlocking the secrets of our past and the hope for our future." Alistair nodded, a small smile playing at the corners of his lips. "Then it is settled. From this day forth, my daughter shall be known as the Alpha Queen, and the kingdom shall prepare for her reign." The councillors, despite their misgivings, knew better than to challenge the king's decree. As they filed out of the chamber, a sense of unease hung heavy in the air, for the future that lay before them was shrouded in mystery, and the consequences of Alistair's decision would echo through the ages. The Alpha Queen. The chamber fell silent, the councillors rendered speechless by the king's unwavering declaration. Liam, who had been standing in the shadows, stepped forward, his eyes shining with a mixture of awe and reverence. "My lord," he said, his voice barely above a whisper, "the child, she is more than she seems. I have felt her power, her connection to the ancient forces that govern our world. She is the key to unlocking the secrets of our past and the hope for our future." Alistair nodded, a small smile playing at the corners of his lips. "Then it is settled. From this day forth, my daughter shall be known as the Alpha Queen, and the kingdom shall prepare for her reign." The councillors, despite their misgivings, knew better than to challenge the king's decree. As they filed out of the chamber, a sense of unease hung heavy in the air, for the future that lay before them was shrouded in mystery, and the consequences of Alistair's decision would echo through the ages. Liam remained behind, his gaze fixed on the young girl, who sat with an otherworldly serenity. Alistair approached the boy, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Tell me, Liam, what do you sense in her?" The stable hand's eyes widened, and he seemed to struggle for the right words. "My lord,
I'm not sure how to explain it.
When I'm near her, I feel a connection, as if I can hear the whispers of the ancient spirits that dwell in the very heart of our world. Her power is both captivating and unsettling, for it is unlike anything I've ever encountered. He paused, his brow furrowing. There is a darkness within her as well, a primal force that both draws me in and fills me with dread. Alistair nodded, his expression grave. I have felt it too, Liam. This child is not what she seems, and the responsibility of guiding her shall be a heavy burden to bear. He turned to the girl, who met his gaze with a faint, enigmatic smile. But I will not shy away from this challenge. She is my daughter, and I will do whatever it takes to ensure her rightful place on the throne. As the preparations for the Alpha Queen's coronation began, a sense of unease spread throughout the kingdom. The once loyal subjects whispered of dark omens and ancient curses, their fears fueled by the unsettling rumors that surrounded the young heir. Alistair, ever the steadfast ruler, sought to quell the growing discontent, assuring his people that their new queen would usher in an era of prosperity and peace. But the king's reassurances fell on deaf ears, for the shadows that had once clung to the edges of the kingdom now seemed to encroach upon the very heart of the realm. Strange occurrences, once dismissed as superstition, became increasingly commonplace, livestock vanishing without a trace, the sudden and unexplained deaths of respected elders, and eerie howls that echoed through the night, sending shivers down the spines of even the bravest of souls. Alistair, consumed by the weight of his decision, poured his energy into shoring up the kingdom's defenses, investing in a formidable army and fortifying the palace's ancient walls. Yet despite his efforts, the unease only grew, and the whispers of discontent evolved into outright rebellion. Factions of disgruntled citizens, fueled by fear and mistrust, began to organize, their sights set on the child they deemed an unholy abomination. As the coronation drew near, Alistair found himself torn between his duties as a king and his unwavering love for his daughter. He knew that the Alpha Queen's ascension would be a pivotal moment, one that could either unite the kingdom or tear it apart. The weight of his decision bore heavily upon him, and he found himself questioning the wisdom of his actions. In the days leading up to the ceremony, Alistair sought counsel from the most trusted members of his inner circle, desperate to find a way to quell the rising unrest. But even his most loyal advisors were uneasy, their own misgivings about the child's true nature clouding their judgment. It was during one such meeting that the unthinkable occurred. As Alistair and his advisors discussed the delicate political situation, a deafening explosion rocked the palace, sending tremors through the very foundations of the ancient structure. Thick plumes of smoke billowed from the direction of the nursery, and Alistair's heart raced as he rushed to the scene, his guards in tow. The sight that greeted him was one of utter devastation. The once pristine nursery lay in ruins, the ornate furnishings reduced to charred fragments, and amidst the smoldering rubble, the small, lifeless form of the Alpha Queen lay motionless, her emerald eyes staring vacantly into the distance. Alistair fell to his knees, his anguished cries echoing through the halls as he cradled his daughter's body. The guards, stunned by the tragedy, scrambled to secure the area, their weapons drawn as they searched for the culprits. Liam, the stable hand, stood in the doorway, his face ashen with shock and disbelief. "No," he whispered, his voice trembling with grief. "She can't be gone. She was supposed to be the savior, the key to unlocking our past." Alistair, his grief-stricken gaze meeting the boy's, felt a surge of rage. "You knew, didn't you?" he growled, his voice laced with accusation. "You knew of the darkness that lurked within her, and yet you said nothing." Liam recoiled, his eyes wide with fear. "My lord, I didn't know. I sensed her power, her connection to the ancient forces, but I never imagined." His words were cut short as the king's guards seized him, their faces grim. In the chaos that followed, the kingdom descended into turmoil. Rumors of the Alpha Queen's demise spread like wildfire, fueling the growing unrest among the people. Factions of rebels, emboldened by the tragedy, launched a series of coordinated attacks, their sights set on the palace and the fragile hold on power that Alistair now clung to. As the king struggled to maintain order and bring the perpetrators to justice, a dark revelation came to light. The explosion that had claimed the life of the Alpha Queen was no mere accident, but a carefully orchestrated assassination, executed by a shadowy cabal of disgruntled nobles who had opposed Alistair's decision from the start. The discovery of this treachery only served to deepen the king's anguish, for it meant that the very foundations of his kingdom were crumbling. The trusted advisors he had once relied upon were now under suspicion, and Alistair found himself increasingly isolated, his every move scrutinized by those who sought to take advantage of the kingdom's vulnerability.
In the midst of this turmoil, a glimmer of hope emerged. Liam, the stable hand who had been imprisoned for his perceived role in the Alpha Queen's demise, managed to escape his cell, his eyes burning with a newfound purpose. Driven by a conviction that the child he had come to revere was not truly gone, he set out to uncover the truth, determined to clear his name, and in the process, unlock the secrets that had led to the young queen's untimely demise.
As Alistair watched the events unfold, his heart heavy with grief and uncertainty, he knew that the future of his kingdom and the legacy of his daughter now rested on the shoulders of a most unlikely hero. And as the kingdom teetered on the brink of collapse, the king found himself facing the most difficult decision of his life: to trust in the steadfast loyalty of a stable hand, or to succumb to the ever-tightening grip of those who sought to seize power in the wake of the Alpha Queen's tragic end. The palace was in chaos. After the horrific explosion that killed the young Alpha Queen, the kingdom teetered on the brink of collapse. King Alistair was devastated, cradling his daughter's lifeless body as the guards apprehended the stable hand, Liam, suspecting him of involvement in the assassination. But just as the guards were about to drag Liam away, something extraordinary happened. The Alpha Queen's body began to glow with a pulsing golden light, the same otherworldly energy that had surrounded her since birth. Alistair and the guards watched in stunned silence as the girl's form seemed to shimmer and shift, her features blurring and reforming. Suddenly, the Alpha Queen's eyes snapped open, blazing with an unearthly power. She rose to her feet, the glowing aura enveloping her tiny frame. Alistair stared, speechless, as his daughter regarded the room with a penetrating gaze that seemed to see into the very hearts of those present. "Father," she spoke, her voice layered with a resonance that belied her young age. "I am not dead. The false ones sought to extinguish the light, but they have only awakened something far greater." She turned to Liam, who had been released by the stunned guards. "You felt the stirring, stable hand. You knew I was not as I seemed." Liam dropped to one knee, his head bowed reverently. "My Alpha Queen, I sensed your power, your connection to the ancient forces. I did not know the full extent of your gifts, but I knew you were destined for greatness." He raised his eyes to meet hers, a look of wonder on his face. "I am honored to serve you, to help you fulfill your true purpose." Alistair watched the exchange, his mind reeling. "Daughter, what is happening? How is this possible?" The Alpha Queen turned to him, her eyes glimmering with a mixture of compassion and resolve. "Father, I am not as I appear. My essence is ancient, older than the kingdom itself. I am a conduit, a vessel for powers that have slumbered for centuries." She gestured to the ruined nursery, the charred remnants of the explosion. "The false ones sought to destroy me, to extinguish the light before it could be unleashed. But their treachery has only hastened my awakening." The king approached his daughter, placing his hands on her shoulders. "Then tell me, child, what is your true nature, and how can I protect you from those who would see you harmed?" The Alpha Queen looked up at him, her eyes swimming with a wisdom that belied her years. "Father, I am the keeper of the ancient knowledge, the guardian of the power that flows through all things. I am the link between the mortal realm and the realms beyond, the conduit through which the very fabric of existence is woven." She paused, her gaze sweeping the room. "The false ones fear this power, for they know that it can either save or destroy the kingdom. They sought to eliminate me, to sever the connection before I could fulfill my destiny." Her expression hardened. "But I will not be silenced. I will reclaim what is rightfully mine, and I will restore the balance that has been so cruelly disrupted." Alistair felt a chill run down his spine at his daughter's words. "Then what must be done? How can I assist you in this monumental task?" The Alpha Queen reached up, placing a delicate hand on his cheek. "Father, you have already done so much. You have protected me, nurtured me, and trusted in the power that flows through me." Her eyes narrowed, a determined glint flashing within their depths. "Now, you must trust in me to do what must be done." She turned to Liam,
who still knelt before her. "Stable hand, you have felt the stirrings of the ancient power. You know the gravity of the task that lies ahead." Liam nodded, his expression solemn. "I am ready, my Alpha Queen. I will do whatever is necessary to aid you in your quest." The Alpha Queen smiled, a spark of something ancient and unknowable flickering in her gaze. "Then rise, my loyal servant. It is time to unveil the truth, to show the false ones the true extent of my power." Alistair watched, his heart racing, as his daughter and the stable hand strode from the ruined nursery, their footsteps echoing through the cavernous halls. He knew that he was witnessing the beginning of a momentous, perhaps even cataclysmic chain of events, one that would forever alter the course of his kingdom. In the days that followed, the Alpha Queen's resurrection became the talk of the realm. Whispers and rumors swirled, fueled by a mixture of awe, fear, and speculation. Some hailed her as a savior, a beacon of hope in a world increasingly shrouded in darkness. Others, however, remained deeply skeptical, their distrust of the young queen's otherworldly power growing stronger with each passing day. Alistair found himself caught in the eye of the storm, his loyalties divided between his role as king and his love for his daughter. He knew that he could not simply stand by and allow the false ones to continue their machinations, but the thought of placing his child in harm's way weighed heavily on his heart. It was during this tumultuous time that Liam, the once humble stable hand, emerged as a trusted confidant and advisor to the Alpha Queen.
The two could often be seen in deep discussion, their heads bent together as they pored over ancient tomes and scrolls, unearthing long-forgotten secrets and piecing together the puzzle of the young queen's true nature. Alistair, though wary of the growing bond between his daughter and the stable boy, could not deny the sense of purpose and determination that seemed to radiate from them. He knew that whatever lay ahead would require all of their combined strength and resolve, for the fate of the kingdom, and perhaps the very fabric of reality itself, hung in the balance. One fateful night, as the king kept vigil in the throne room, the doors burst open and Liam came rushing in, his eyes wild with panic. "My lord, you must come quickly. The Alpha Queen has summoned you to the ancient crypt beneath the palace." Alistair felt a surge of dread. The crypt, a place of sacred importance in the kingdom's history, was rumored to hold the secrets of the realm's founding, secrets that had been closely guarded for generations. "What has happened, Liam? Is my daughter in danger?" The stable hand shook his head, his expression grim. "I cannot say for certain, my lord, but the Alpha Queen insists that you must bear witness to what she has uncovered. The future of the kingdom hangs in the balance." Without hesitation, Alistair followed Liam through the winding corridors, his mind racing with 1,000 unanswered questions. As they descended into the shadowy depths of the ancient crypt, the air grew thick with a palpable tension, and the king felt a shiver of unease run down his spine. The chamber was dimly lit, the flickering torchlight casting eerie shadows across the weathered stone walls. In the center stood the Alpha Queen, her eyes shining with a newfound determination. Beside her, a tattered parchment lay open on a pedestal, its surface covered in faded runes and arcane symbols. "Father," the young queen spoke, her voice steady and authoritative, "I have uncovered the truth, the true origins of our kingdom, and the nature of the power that flows through me." Alistair stepped forward, his gaze sweeping the chamber. "Then tell me, daughter, what is it that you have learned?" The Alpha Queen took a deep breath, her expression solemn. "The kingdom was not founded by our ancestors as the histories have always claimed. No, its roots lie in something far more ancient, something that has been hidden from the people for generations." She gestured to the parchment, her fingers tracing the intricate symbols. "This document, a journal left by the kingdom's first ruler, reveals a startling truth. Our land was not built upon the foundations of mortal rule, but upon the remnants of a forgotten civilization, a civilization that wielded powers beyond human comprehension." Alistair felt a shiver run down his spine.
"What are you saying, child? That our kingdom was forged upon the ashes of some long-lost, otherworldly empire?" The Alpha Queen nodded solemnly. "Yes, father, and the power that flows through me, the very essence that the false ones sought to extinguish, it is the last vestige of that ancient civilization, a connection to a realm that exists beyond the mortal plane." She turned to Liam, her gaze unwavering. "The false ones know the truth, father. They know that my power poses a threat to their ambitions, a threat to the fragile order they have built upon the bones of the past." Her expression hardened. And they will stop at nothing to ensure that I never fulfill my destiny. Alistair felt a surge of protectiveness, his paternal instincts roaring to life. Then we will face them together, my daughter. I will not allow them to harm you, nor to destroy the legacy of our kingdom. The Alpha Queen nodded, a faint smile playing at the corners of her lips. I know, Father, and that is why I have summoned you here, to bear witness to the truth, and to help me reclaim what is rightfully ours. As the king and his daughter stood side by side, the shadows in the ancient crypt seemed to shift and whisper, as if the very walls were alive with the echoes of a forgotten past. Alistair knew that the battle that lay ahead would be unlike any he had ever faced, for the fate of the kingdom and the fate of the world now rested upon the shoulders of the Alpha Queen and her unlikely allies. Here is a new 1,600-word chapter that continues the story with a shocking plot twist. The air in the ancient crypt felt heavy with anticipation as King Alistair and the Alpha Queen stood before the tattered parchment, its faded runes and symbols holding the key to the kingdom's true origins. Liam, the stable hand turned trusted advisor, hovered nearby, his eyes shining with a mixture of reverence and unease. This journal, Father, reveals a truth that has been hidden for generations, the young queen declared, her voice ringing with conviction. Our kingdom was not founded by mortal hands, but upon the ruins of a forgotten civilization, one that wielded powers beyond our comprehension. Alistair felt a chill run down his spine. Then what does this mean for our future, daughter? If our kingdom is built upon such ancient and mysterious foundations, how can we hope to protect it from those who would seek to exploit or destroy it? The Alpha Queen's expression hardened. The false ones, those who seek to undermine my rightful claim to the throne, they know the truth. They fear the power that flows through me, for they understand its true nature and the threat it poses to their ambitions. Liam stepped forward, his brow furrowed with concern.
My Alpha Queen, what exactly is the nature of this power? You've spoken of it being the last remnant of the ancient civilization, but what does that mean for you, for all of us? The young queen turned to him, her gaze unwavering. Liam, the power that courses through my veins is not of this world. It is a conduit, a link between the mortal realm and realms beyond our understanding, realms that hold the very secrets of existence itself. Alistair felt a surge of both wonder and trepidation. Daughter, are you saying that you are the key to unlocking these ancient mysteries, that your very essence is intertwined with forces that transcend the boundaries of our world? The Alpha Queen nodded solemnly. Yes, Father, I am the vessel, the bridge between the mortal and the divine. And the false ones, they know this. They know that if they can sever that connection, they will have the power to reshape the kingdom and perhaps even the very fabric of reality to suit their own twisted ambitions. Liam's eyes widened with realization. Then that means the attempt on your life, the explosion in the nursery, it was not simply an act of political subterfuge, but a desperate attempt to eliminate you before you could fulfill your destiny. Precisely, the young queen replied, her voice tinged with a hint of steel. They sought to extinguish the light, to cut the cord that binds me to the ancient powers. But in their haste, they have only hastened my awakening. Alistair felt a surge of pride and protectiveness. Then we must act quickly, my daughter. We cannot allow the false ones to succeed in their machinations. What is it that you need from me? The Alpha Queen's expression softened, and she reached out to take her father's hand. Father, I need you to trust in me, to have faith in the power that flows through me. For the path ahead will be arduous, and the challenges we face will test the very limits of our resolve. Alistair nodded, his grip tightening around her delicate fingers. You have my unwavering support, my child. I will stand by your side, no matter the cost. Liam cleared his throat, his gaze shifting between the king and the young queen. My Alpha Queen, if I may, what is it that you plan to do? How do you intend to confront the false ones and reclaim your rightful place? The Alpha Queen's eyes gleamed with a fierce determination. We must journey to the heart of the ancient civilization, to the very source of the power that flows through me. There, we will uncover the truth, the secrets that have been hidden from the world for centuries. Alistair felt a pang of trepidation. Daughter, the false ones will surely try to stop us. The risks... Father, I understand your concerns, the young queen interrupted, her voice laced with resolve.
but the fate of our kingdom, and perhaps the very fabric of existence itself, hangs in the balance. We cannot afford to shy away from this challenge, no matter the cost."
Liam stepped forward, his expression unwavering. "Then you can count on me, my Alpha Queen. I will follow you to the ends of the earth, and beyond, if that is what is required." Alistair looked between the two, his heart swelling with a mixture of pride and fear. "Very well. If this is the path we must take, then I will be at your side, every step of the way." With a nod, the Alpha Queen turned to the ancient parchment, her fingers tracing the intricate symbols. "Then we must make haste. The false ones will not rest until they have extinguished the light, and we cannot allow that to happen." The trio made their way through the winding corridors of the palace, their footsteps echoing in the stillness. As they approached the main gates, a commotion erupted, and Alistair's heart raced with dread. Bursting through the entryway, a group of armed guards surrounded them, their weapons drawn. At their head stood a familiar face, Edith, the elder council member whose suspicions of the young queen had long been a thorn in Alistair's side. "Alpha Queen," Edith hissed, her eyes narrowed with malice. "So, you finally revealed your true nature, have you? Well, we won't allow you to continue your deception any longer." Alistair stepped forward, his regal bearing commanding attention. "Edith, what is the meaning of this? Stand down at once." The elder council member sneered, her gaze unwavering. "I'm afraid I cannot do that, my lord. The Alpha Queen is a threat to the very fabric of our kingdom, and we cannot allow her to endanger us all with her dangerous delusions of grandeur." The Alpha Queen raised a hand, her voice ringing with authority. "Edith, you and the false ones have perpetuated a lie for far too long. The truth is finally coming to light, and you cannot stop it." Edith's expression darkened, her fingers tightening around the hilt of her sword. "Then you leave us no choice, girl. If you will not submit to our authority, we will be forced to eliminate you, and anyone who dares to stand in our way." Alistair felt his heart racing, his protective instincts surging to the surface. "Edith, you cannot be serious. This is madness. The Alpha Queen is my daughter, the rightful heir to the throne." The elder council member's lips curled into a malevolent smile. "Oh, but we are quite serious, my lord. The kingdom cannot be trusted in the hands of one so corrupted by ancient powers. And if you insist on defending her, then you too must be—" Suddenly, the air crackled with energy, and the very walls of the palace seemed to tremble. The guards, caught off guard, stumbled back in alarm as a shimmering barrier erupted around the Alpha Queen, Alistair, and Liam, shielding them from Edith's forces. The young queen's eyes blazed with an unearthly power, and Alistair felt a surge of awe and terror. "Daughter, what is happening?" "The false ones have left me no choice, father," the Alpha Queen replied, her voice layered with a resonance that seemed to reverberate through the very fabric of the world. "I must unleash the full extent of my power to protect us, to protect the kingdom." Edith and her guards rushed forward, their weapons raised, only to be repelled by the pulsing golden energy that surrounded the trio. The elder council member's face contorted with rage and fear, her eyes wild. "Impossible! How can this be?" she shrieked, her voice trembling. "The ancient powers cannot be harnessed by one such as you." The Alpha Queen's expression hardened, her gaze unwavering. "You are mistaken, Edith. I am the conduit, the vessel through which the true power of this kingdom flows, and I will not allow you and your false ones to stand in my way any longer." With a sudden, sweeping motion, the young queen extended her hand, and a wave of shimmering energy surged forth, enveloping Edith and her guards. The elder council member's eyes widened in horror as she and her forces were lifted into the air, their bodies contorting and twisting in a grotesque display. Alistair watched, transfixed and horrified, as the life drained from Edith's eyes, her features shifting and blurring until she was no more than a lifeless husk, suspended in the glowing vortex of power. The other guards, their cries of terror echoing through the halls, met a similar fate, their very essence seeming to be stripped away by the relentless onslaught of the Alpha Queen's unearthly force. As the last of Edith's followers collapsed, the shimmering barrier faded, and the young queen turned to her father, her expression unreadable. "Father, the time has come. We must journey to the heart of the ancient civilization to uncover the full truth of my power and the destiny that awaits us." Alistair, his mind reeling from the horrific display, struggled to find his voice.
Daughter, what have you done? How could you? The Alpha Queen raised a hand, silencing him. There is no time for questions, Father. The false ones will not rest, and we must act quickly if we are to save the kingdom and the very fabric of existence itself. Liam, his eyes wide with a mixture of awe and trepidation, stepped forward. My Alpha Queen, I am ready to follow you wherever this path may lead. Alistair lay between his daughter and the stable hand, his heart heavy with conflicting emotions. He knew that there was no turning back, that the fate of the kingdom now rested squarely on their shoulders. With a deep breath, he nodded, his resolve hardening. Then let us make haste. The future of our world hangs in the balance. As the trio set out on their perilous journey, the echoes of Edith's final agonizing screams lingered in the air, a haunting reminder of the power that the Alpha Queen wielded, a power that could either save or destroy them all.
The journey to the heart of the ancient civilization was arduous, the path fraught with peril. King Alistair, the Alpha Queen, and the stable hand Liam pushed onward, driven by a sense of purpose that overshadowed the growing unease in their hearts. As they ventured deeper into the unknown, the very fabric of reality seemed to shift and distort around them. Alistair felt a chill run down his spine, the weight of their mission bearing down upon him with each step. The Alpha Queen, her eyes shining with an otherworldly power, led the way with unwavering determination. Liam remained steadfast at her side, his reverence for the young queen only deepening with each passing moment. Alistair watched the pair with a mixture of pride and trepidation, his role as protector and patriarch warring with the stark reality of his daughter's true nature. Finally, they reached the entrance to the ancient civilization's core, a towering, ebony structure that seemed to pulse with a primal energy. Alistair paused, his weathered hand gripping the hilt of his sword. "Daughter, are you certain this is the way? The darkness that emanates from that place, it fills me with dread." The Alpha Queen turned to him, her expression grave. "Father, I understand your concerns, but we must press on. The fate of our kingdom, and perhaps the very fabric of existence itself, hangs in the balance." She reached out, placing a delicate hand on his arm. "Trust me, Father. I know what must be done." Alistair searched her eyes, finding a wisdom and resolve that belied her young age. With a heavy sigh, he nodded, and the trio stepped through the towering archway, leaving the mortal realm behind. The chamber within was unlike anything they had ever witnessed. The very air crackled with energy, and the walls seemed to pulse and shift, as if the structure itself was alive. Alistair felt a wave of disorientation, his senses overwhelmed by the sheer power that permeated the space. In the center of the chamber stood a massive obsidian pedestal, its surface covered in intricate runes and symbols. The Alpha Queen approached it reverently, her fingers tracing the ancient markings. "This is it," she whispered, her voice tinged with awe. "The very heart of the civilization, the source of the power that flows through me." Liam stepped forward, his eyes wide with wonder. "Then what must we do, my Alpha Queen? How do we unlock the secrets hidden within?" The young queen turned to him, her expression solemn. "We must open the conduit, Liam. We must allow the full force of the ancient power to flow through me, to forge a connection that will bind me to this realm and the realms beyond." Alistair felt a surge of alarm. "Daughter, are you certain this is wise? The power you speak of, it is beyond our comprehension."
What if you cannot control it? The Alpha Queen met his gaze, her eyes shining with determination. "I must, Father. This is my destiny, my purpose. I am the link, the conduit through which the ancient forces will be unleashed. And if I fail," she paused, her voice trailing off. Liam placed a hand on her shoulder, his expression one of steadfast loyalty. "Then we will be here, my Alpha Queen, to guide you and to bear witness to your triumph." Alistair felt a lump form in his throat, his paternal instincts warring with the rational part of his mind. "Very well," he conceded, his voice heavy with resignation. "But I will not leave your side, daughter. I will be here to protect you, no matter the cost." The Alpha Queen nodded, a faint smile playing at the corners of her lips. "I would have it no other way, Father." With a deep breath, the young queen placed her hands on the pedestal, her eyes sliding shut in concentration. The runes and symbols upon the surface began to glow, a pulsing rhythm that seemed to reverberate through the very foundations of the chamber. Alistair and Liam watched, transfixed, as the Alpha Queen's body became enveloped in a shimmering aura, the energy crackling and swirling around her.
Alistair felt a surge of protectiveness, his hand tightening around the hilt of his sword. Suddenly, a deafening crack echoed through the chamber, and the pedestal began to tremble, the glowing symbols pulsing with an ever-increasing intensity. Alistair's eyes widened in alarm as cracks began to form in the obsidian surface, jagged fissures that seemed to spread with every passing moment. "Daughter!" he cried, taking a step forward, but Liam's hand on his arm held him back. "No, my lord!" the stable hand shouted, his voice laced with a mixture of fear and reverence. "This is her moment. We must not interfere!" Alistair hesitated, his gaze locked on the Alpha Queen, who remained steadfast, her features etched with determination. The chamber trembled and groaned, the very walls cracking and shifting as the ancient power surged through the young queen's form. Suddenly, with a deafening roar, the pedestal exploded, sending shards of obsidian hurtling in all directions. Alistair and Liam shielded their eyes, the sheer force of the blast knocking them off their feet. When the dust settled, the Alpha Queen stood in the center of the chamber, her body radiating an otherworldly energy. Her eyes snapped open, and Alistair felt a chill run down his spine. The emerald irises that had once captivated him were now ablaze with a kaleidoscope of colors, swirling and shifting in a mesmerizing display. "Daughter!" Alistair breathed, his voice barely above a whisper. The Alpha Queen turned to him, her expression unreadable. "Father, the conduit is open. The ancient power flows through me, binding me to the realms beyond." Liam scrambled to his feet, his eyes shining with a mixture of awe and trepidation.
"My Alpha Queen, what does this mean? What have you done?" The young queen's gaze shifted to the stable hand, and Alistair felt a pang of unease at the intensity of her stare. "Liam, faithful servant, you have served me well, but now your purpose has been fulfilled." Alistair's eyes widened in horror as the Alpha Queen raised her hand, the air crackling with energy. "Daughter, no! What are you—" But his words were cut short as a blinding bolt of power erupted from the young queen's fingertips, slamming into Liam's chest. The stable hand let out a guttural scream, his body contorting and twisting as the energy consumed him, reducing him to little more than a smoldering husk. Alistair watched, frozen in shock and disbelief, as Liam's lifeless form crumpled to the floor. "Daughter, what have you done?" he whispered, his voice trembling. The Alpha Queen turned to him, her expression devoid of emotion. "I have done what was necessary, Father. Liam's purpose was to guide me to this moment, to help me unlock the true extent of my power." She paused, a hint of something akin to regret flashing across her features. "But now, his role is at an end." Alistair felt a surge of rage and betrayal, his hands clenching into fists at his sides. This is not what I wanted for you, daughter. I trusted you, I believed in you, and you've repaid that trust with murder." The Alpha Queen's eyes narrowed, the swirling colors within them intensifying. "You do not understand, Father. This is not about mere mortal concerns. I am the conduit, the link between the realms. My power transcends the petty squabbles of your kind." Alistair took a step forward, his expression etched with anguish. "Then what of your kingdom, your people? What of me, your own father? Have we not earned your loyalty, your compassion?" The Alpha Queen's eyes hardened. "The kingdom, the people, they are insignificant in the grand scheme of things. I am destined for far greater purposes than the rule of a mortal realm." She raised her hand, the air crackling with energy. "And you, Father, you have served your purpose as well." Alistair felt a surge of terror, his mind racing as he realized the true nature of his daughter's transformation. "Daughter, please, don't do this. I beg you, remember who you are. Remember your—" His words were cut short as the Alpha Queen unleashed another bolt of searing power, the energy slamming into his chest with the force of a thunderclap. Alistair felt his body convulse, the pain coursing through him like molten steel. As his vision began to fade, he caught a glimpse of the young queen's expression, cold, detached, and devoid of the warmth and humanity he had once cherished. "Forgive me, Father," she whispered, her voice echoing through the cavernous chamber. "But I am no longer bound by the constraints of your world." Alistair's world descended into darkness,
the weight of his daughter's betrayal crushing him as he slipped into the abyss.
And in the stillness that followed, the Alpha Queen turned her gaze towards the horizon, her power radiating outwards like a shockwave that would reverberate through the very fabric of existence. It was the darkest hour I've ever known. After the Alpha Queen betrayed her own father and murdered the loyal stable hand Liam, I watched in horror as she unleashed her devastating powers, destroying King Alistair with a blast of searing energy. As Alistair's lifeless body crumpled to the ground, the young queen turned to me, her eyes swirling with a kaleidoscope of colors. "Forgive me, father," she had whispered, her voice laced with a cold detachment that chilled me to the core. "But I am no longer bound by the constraints of your world."
Alpha Queen, you have strayed too far from your true purpose. It is time to return, to fulfill your destiny as the conduit between the realms. The young queen's eyes widened, and for a fleeting moment I saw a glimpse of the child I had once known, the innocent yet powerful heir who had captured our hearts. "No, I will not be denied," she cried, her voice tinged with desperation. "This power, this connection, it is mine to command." The booming voice seemed to sigh, a profound sense of weariness and regret underlying its words. "Your arrogance has blinded you, child. You were chosen to be the bridge, the link between the mortal and the divine. But you have allowed your thirst for power to corrupt you, to sever the very ties that bound you to your true purpose." The Alpha Queen's features contorted with rage, and she unleashed a torrent of energy towards the glowing portal. But to my astonishment, the power seemed to dissipate harmlessly, the ancient voice piercing through the cacophony of the young queen's assault. "Enough, child. It is time to return, to face the consequences of your actions." The portal began to expand, its luminous edges beckoning the Alpha Queen. "You have forsaken your duty, your connection to this world. Now you must come back, to account for your transgressions and restore the balance that you have so cruelly disrupted." The young queen's expression shifted from one of defiance to pure, unadulterated terror. "No, I won't go. This power, this connection, it is mine," she screamed, her voice cracking with desperation. But the booming voice remained resolute. "It was never yours to claim, child. You were merely the vessel, the conduit through which the ancient forces were to be balanced and guided. And now you must face the reckoning." With a surge of energy, the portal began to pull the Alpha Queen towards it, her cries of anguish echoing through the chamber. I watched, transfixed, as the young queen's features morphed and shifted, the swirling colors in her eyes fading into nothingness. The ancient power that had once coursed through her was being stripped away, leaving behind a terrified, vulnerable child. As the portal's grasp tightened, the Alpha Queen turned to me, her emerald eyes shimmering with tears. "Liam, please," she pleaded, her voice barely above a whisper. "Don't let them take me. I'm afraid." I felt my heart clench, the weight of her words and the memory of our shared past crashing down upon me. In that moment, I saw not the powerful, corrupted queen, but the innocent child I had once sworn to protect. Without hesitation, I surged forward, reaching out to her, my fingers brushing against the shimmering energy of the portal. But the moment my skin made contact, a searing pain shot through my body, and I was thrown backwards, my vision blurring.
As I lay there, gasping for breath, I watched in horror as the Alpha Queen was pulled inexorably into the glowing abyss, her anguished cries fading into the void. And then there was silence. The chamber, once alive with the crackle of ancient power, now felt empty and hollow. I struggled to my feet, my body aching, and made my way to the spot where the portal had been. But there was no trace of it, nor any sign of the young queen who had once stood at its center. Alistair's lifeless form lay where it had fallen, a poignant reminder of the devastation that had been wrought. I knelt beside him, my fingers tracing the weathered features of the king I had once sworn to serve. Tears welled in my eyes as I recalled the trust he had placed in me, the faith he had shown in his daughter,
a faith that had ultimately been betrayed. As I sat there, mourning the loss of the two people who had come to mean the most to me, I couldn't help but wonder what the future held. The kingdom, which had once bustled with life and promise, now lay in ruin, its foundations shaken to the core. And the Alpha Queen, the last heir to the throne, had been ripped away, her power and her destiny deemed too great for the mortal realm. I knew that I had to return, to inform the people of what had transpired, to bear witness to the shattering of the dream we had all shared. But the weight of that burden felt insurmountable. The task of rebuilding a kingdom from the ashes of such a cataclysmic event beyond my meager capabilities. Yet, as I sat there in the silence, I felt a glimmer of hope, a small ember that refused to be extinguished. For even in the face of such tragedy, I knew that the legacy of the Alpha Queen and her father could not be allowed to fade. Their sacrifices, their struggles, had shaped the very course of our world, and their stories deserved to be told, to inspire and guide those who would come after. So, with a deep breath, I rose to my feet, my gaze sweeping the chamber one final time. I would return to the kingdom, relay the events that had unfolded here, and work tirelessly to ensure that the memory of the Alpha Queen and her father would live on. Perhaps in time, their story would become a beacon of hope, a testament to the power of sacrifice and the enduring strength of the human spirit. As I turned and made my way out of the ancient chamber, the weight of my burden felt a little less crushing. For I knew that, in the end, the true legacy of the Alpha Queen and her father would not be defined by the tragic end of their tale, but by the profound impact they had left on those whose lives they had touched. And so, I walked forward, my steps steady and my heart resolute, determined to ensure that the light they had kindled within me would continue to burn, even in the darkest of times.